I get a strike while the iron is hot. I'm going to cover one-to-one time and compare TSR's view to the Brosr's view. Why am I doing this video now? Well, recently the RPG Pundit did a video on this exact topic. And why it's on the top of people's heads, well, I can't hold back anymore. I've done a deep dive for 3 weeks, preparing to make a video on this. I might have held off longer and kept looking into it, but I think I've already gotten to where I want to be. So I'm going to give you the most honest take I can give you on this. I've tried my best to put all biased thinking away and be as fair on this subject as I can. It's about facts. It's not about my feelings. The TSR view of one-to-one time. One-to-one time in TSR D&D starts as campaign control, not a slogan. When people talk about one-to-one time in old school D&D, the first thing to get straight is this. TSR was not mainly talking about immersion or some weird fetish for calendars. It was talking about running a campaign that stays coherent. Original D&D already tells the referee to reckon time in a structured way. A dungeon expedition counts as a week. Wilderness adventure is tracked by day per hex. And a week of real time can equal a week of campaign time. Right from the start, time is there to stop the world from turning into mush. The real issue is shared world fairness. AD&D 1E makes the point harder because Gygax is thinking like a referee of a persistent world with multiple characters and potentially multiple groups. That is why he hits the reader with the line that strict time records are required for a meaningful campaign. The point is that one group raids a dungeon level on day 51. Another group should not be able to stroll in on day 52 as if nothing happened. Time is what keeps cause and effect intact. The famous one actual day equals one game day line is not what people think it is. This is where a lot of people get sloppy. The famous line is not all of D&D must always run in real time. The wording that keeps getting quoted is, it is best to use one actual day equals one game day when no play is happening. That matters. TSR's idea is not that combat, dungeon turns, or wilderness travel exactly map on to your wall clock. The idea is that between sessions, when characters are not actively being played through minute by minute, the campaign clock should keep moving in a disciplined way. It exists because old D&D has a lot of downtime mechanics. This is the meat of it. In TSR-era play, time is expensive. Healing takes time. Spell research takes time. Creating magic items takes time. Training takes time. Building strongholds takes time. Wilderness movement takes time. If you do not keep records, all of that either becomes arbitrary or gets quietly ignored. Once that happens, a huge part of old D&D's campaign game disappears. Time is a balancing tool, not just a realism tool. This is another part modern people miss. TSR-era timekeeping is also a way to stop hyperactive characters or parties from dominating the whole campaign. AD&D 2nd edition says this outright in softer language. Time can be used as a game balancer. Characters ahead of the curve can get slowed by enforcing research, training, and healing time. Lagging characters can catch up if their day-to-day burdens are relaxed. That is not just realism. That is campaign governance. The more your campaign expands, the more TSR wants time tracked. At low levels, boost time can work because adventures are short. But as campaign grows, parties split. Different goals happen at once. And players start doing longer projects. Detailed timekeeping becomes more useful. AD&D 2nd edition says exactly that. Once one group is on a 3-week trip and another is hanging around town, you now have different time scales and you need to reconcile them. The campaign calendar is part of world building. TSR also treats timekeeping as flavor. If you keep a calendar, now seasons matter, moon phases matter, holy days matter, harvest matter, weather matters, and recurring events matter. Without a calendar, the world risks becoming that vague eternal summer that exists only when players look at it. Second Ed especially says a calendar gives a campaign life. So what did TSR actually intend? The best straight reading is this. TSR intended D&D campaigns to be persistent worlds with tracked, elapsed time, where off-screen days still count, downtime actions are real, and different parties or characters can affect the same living setting in a fair sequence. The stricter the campaign, the more important this becomes. The literal one-to-one between real days and game days is best read as recommended between sessions, not the whole of the rule. So the TSR take is not one-to-one time is a weird optional gimmick. It is also not every table must become a calendar cult. The TSR take is that time is one of the main currencies of the campaign, and if you do not track it, a lot of old D&D stops functioning the way it was built to function. The Bro OSR view of one-to-one time. They treat it as a core pillar, not a tool. The Bro OSR doesn't see one-to-one time as one of many good techniques. They treat it like a fundamental rule of how D&D is supposed to work. To them, this isn't optional campaign management, it's part of the actual structure of the game. If you don't use it, you're not just running differently, you're drifting away from what they believe AD&D 1E is. Real-time passage equals a living world. The core idea is simple and aggressive. The game world exists whether players are at the table or not. So if 5 real days pass, then 5 in-game days pass. Period. No pausing the world. No freezing time between sessions. No, we'll pick up exactly where we left off. That means NPCs keep acting. Enemies recover, move, or fortify. Dungeons change. Rivals can beat you to objectives. The world is not waiting for the players, it's moving forward. It enforces scarcity and commitment. This is where their philosophy gets sharper. They believe modern play removes pressure, instant recovery, flexible timelines, everyone plays every session, expectation. One-to-one time breaks that. Now, you might miss sessions because your character is busy. You might fall behind. You have to choose how to spend time carefully. To them, this is not a flaw, it's the point. It creates risk, trade-offs, and long-term thinking. It enables competition between players. Brosr play often assumes players are not always aligned. Parties can compete. Information is not perfectly shared. With one-to-one time, another group can beat you to the treasure. Someone can act while you're recovering. Opportunities can be lost permanently. That creates kind of a soft PvP through the world. Player versus player. Even if players aren't directly fighting each other. It connects D&D back to its wargaming roots. This is something they emphasize heavily. They see one-to-one time as a bridge back to Bronstein-style play, campaign wargaming, persistent strategic worlds, where players act independently, time always moves forward, the referee manages a living system. In their view, later D&D drifted away from this into session-based storytelling, and one-to-one time is part of restoring the older structure. They argue it's easier, not harder. This is counterintuitive, but it's their claim. They argue one-to-one time actually reduces bookkeeping confusion, removes timeline math, eliminates what day are we on problems, because the answer is always, it's whatever day it is right now. No syncing, no rewinding, no adjusting. Their criticism of non-one-to-one play. They are blunt about this. They believe without one-to-one time, campaigns become inconsistent. Players' actions lose consequences. The world becomes on-demand content. Time becomes arbitrary and DM controlled. In their eyes, that turns D&D into something closer to storytelling sessions, theme park adventures. The world waits for the players' gameplay, which they reject outright. The hardline stance. This is it. They have a hardline stance on a lot of things, but this is important. Here's the real bottom line of the Bro OSR position. One-to-one time is not just useful. It is not just old school flavor. It is a defining feature of correct campaign play. Everything else, strict records, downtime, multi-party play, locks into place because of it. Remove it, and in their view, the entire structure weakens. The Bro OSR doesn't treat one-to-one time as advice. They treat it as the backbone that makes a D&D campaign real, persistent, and competitive. To them, most modern tables didn't reject one-to-one time because it's bad. They rejected it because it's demanding, and it forces players to deal with consequences they'd rather avoid. Okay, this is us putting TSR versus Bro OSR and their view on the one-to-one time. Same roots, different intensity. TSR, strict time records are important for a meaningful campaign. Bro OSR, one-to-one time is the correct way to run D&D. Those sound similar, but they are not the same claim. TSR is saying, track time carefully or your campaign breaks down. Bro OSR is saying, there is a specific correct method of tracking time, and that method is one-to-one. That's the first split. TSR principle, Bro OSR doctrine. One-to-one time. Recommendation versus rule. TSR mentions one real day equals one game day, specifically for between sessions. Frames it as best or useful, but not mandatory. Allows flexibility depending on the campaign style. Bro OSR treats one-to-one as always on, not just between sessions. It's the default structure of the campaign. Anything else is seen as a downgrade or misunderstanding. So TSR gives you a tool. The Bro OSR turns that tool into the system itself. What problem are they solving? This is where the philosophies really split. TSR is solving multi-party confusion, timeline contradictions, fairness in shared campaigns, downtime tracking. It's administrative. It's about keeping the campaign from collapsing. Bro OSR is solving lack of consequences, player entitlement to constant play, theme park campaigns, passive worlds that wait for players. It's about what the game should feel like. World persistence, implied versus enforced. TSR implies the world should keep moving, encourages it through time tracking, but still allows DMs to bend things when needed. Bro OSR enforces it strictly. The world always moves forward, no pauses, no rewinds, no safety nets. So TSR says you should probably run a persistent world. Bro OSR says if your world isn't persistent in real time, you're doing it wrong. Player experience, flexibility versus pressure. TSR approach, players can usually show up and play. Downtime matters, but can be managed loosely. Campaign adapts to the group. Bro OSR approach, players can miss sessions because of in-game time commitments. Characters can fall behind. Choices lock you out of play. TSR keeps things playable. Bro OSR makes things demanding. Downtime. Tracked versus lived. TSR, downtime is tracked on paper. You calculate how long things take. It's part of the system. The Brosr, downtime is lived in real time. If it takes 2 weeks, you wait 2 real weeks. That's a big escalation. TSR bookkeeping, Brosr real world consequences. Multi-party play. Supported versus built around. TSR supports multiple parties, provides tools to manage them, assumes it might happen. Brosr builds the entire structure around it, expects competing groups, assumes overlapping activity constantly. So TSR says, here's how to handle multiple groups. Brosr says the game works best because there are multiple groups. Competition, optional versus baked in. TSR, competition can happen, not required. Campaign can still function without it. Brosr, competition is a feature. Players can lose opportunities permanently. The world doesn't care about fairness. This is where the tone shifts hard. TSR still leans cooperative. Brosr leans competitive ecosystem. Complexity, managed versus eliminated. This is one of the most interesting differences. TSR accepts complexity. You track calendars, adjust timelines, sync events. DM does the heavy lifting. The Brosr tries to eliminate that complexity, uses real time as a universal tracker. What day is it? Today. So TSR manages complexity. Brosr tries to erase it with a hard rule. The real divide. TSR built a system that supports one-to-one time. Brosr turned one-to-one time into the foundation of the system. That's the difference. TSR's position, if you don't track time, your campaign loses meaning. Brosr's position, if you don't use one-to-one time, you're not running the game the way it was meant to work. One is guidance from the original designers. The other is a modern interpretation that pushes the guidance to its absolute limit. Which one actually works better? TSR approach equals built for the widest range of play. TSR's model wins on flexibility. And that's not a small thing. That's why D&D survived. It works for one party or multiple parties. Casual groups or hardcore groups. Weekly play, inconsistent play, and long gaps. Players who can't commit their real life schedule to the game. It's for them. It keeps time meaningful. Campaigns coherent, but still lets the DM adjust reality when needed. Translation, it bends without breaking. That's why it became the default even among people who never read the rules closely. Brosr approach equals extremely strong but narrow. Here's the truth. The Brosr model is not wrong, it's just demanding as hell. It works best when you have multiple players cycling in note. It works best when you want a persistent shared world. It works best when players accept missing sessions due to in-game time. It works best when those conditions are met. It's powerful. The world feels alive. Time has teeth. Players' decisions matter long term. Campaign consistency becomes rock solid. But here's the catch. Where the Brosr breaks for most tables. Most groups don't run like that. Reality check. Players have jobs, families, inconsistent schedules. People expect to play when they show up. Groups are usually small and stable. Not everyone wants competition or falling behind. Under those conditions, Brosr creates friction. Players locked out due to downtime. Scheduling conflicts turning into in-game punishment. Slower engagement, drop-off risk, translation. It's a high discipline system in a low discipline environment. That mismatch kills it for most tables. TSR's hidden advantage. It adapts to human reality. TSR knew something important. Even if people don't spell it out, the game has to work with real life. That's why even in 2nd edition they softened the stance. Some DMs tracked strictly. Some barely track at all. Both are acceptable depending on the campaign. TSR protects the game from players' lives. Brosr expects players' lives to adapt to the game. That's a massive difference. The real comparison. TSR approach flexible. Scales across groups. Supports different playstyles. Keeps campaigns stable. Works for most people. Brosr approach. Rigid. Highly structured. Maximizes consequences and realism. Requires buy-in and discipline. Works best for a niche. But does that niche extremely well. The honest verdict. If you're asking. What works better for D&D overall? The answer is TSR approach. It wins. Because it covers more tables, handles real-life constraints, still preserves the core idea of time mattering. But don't dismiss the Brosr. If you're asking, what creates the most intense, consistent, hardcore campaign experience, then the Brosr can absolutely outperform TSR-style play in this area of one-to-one time. When it fits the group, it creates a true persistent world. Real pressure and consequences. A campaign that feels alive without compromise. Most people just don't have group structure to support it. TSR designed a system that works for almost everyone. Brosr refined one part of that system into something stronger, but only for the few who can handle it. That's the real answer. I won't say anything more. There you go. This is the Condor DM take on the entire thing. I never want to cover this again.